promo. I'm going to go ahead and hit record so we get a little bit of outtake action. Okay. So when you do your promo, it sounds something like, hey, this is Danny from Danny Pomplume and Pomploon. Yes.
Yep.
I don't know why that's hard to say. DannyPomploon.com. And you're listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith. Listen up and don't crash or something like that. Okay. So whenever you're ready, take one, hit it.
Hey, this is Danny Pomploon, and you're listening to Jeff with Vroom 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 Vroom.
If you want to try it again, I'm okay with it. I like mistakes and goof ups that we just leave.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect.
Let's do it.
And don't forget, you have to say DannyPomploon.com.
Oh, got it.
Right.
Okay. Hey, this is Danny Pomploon from DannyPomploon.com, and you're listening to Jeff on Vroom Vroom Veer.
See, that was perfect. So well done. I mean,
it's like I've done it before.
Well, it's like the screw ups get left in. So that's why it was perfect, because first you screwed up and then you did it perfectly. See, so
right.
you hit both marks. All right.
Perfect.
I have to hit stop and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Prady Tewarie. Thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey man, it's doing well, man. I'm super excited to be on the show today for a variety of reasons that I definitely want to get into what I think is remarkable about the show. But thanks for having me on, man. I'm super looking forward to having a great conversation. And like I said before we started recording, provide a value to people listening in while I tell my story. It's really important.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. So before we jump into the superhero origin story of Prady like Freddy, talk a little bit about what you're most excited about at getazoth.com today.
Yeah, so getazoth.com basically is a website for our company, which is called AZOTH. And AZOTH, basically what we do, we create products to help people become more productive. And that is, people look at the site and say it's a supplement company where we sell, supplements. But I was never, I never looked at it that way. When we get calls from customer service, I remember the first time that someone called in and it was a woman, and she was asking me about, supplement and what the pricing. And I was like, what supplement? And she was like, the one on your website. And I was like, oh, we don't sell supplements. She's like, well, what do you sell? I told her, what we sell time, more time in your day to do the things that you usually can't get to, the stuff that we put on the back burner, the project that we're supposed to start, the hobby that we never really got into, the family member we're supposed to call, the extra credits we're supposed to take. That is that's what the mission is at the company. How can we get a little bit more out of people's day? And that's what AZOTH is all about. And that's the challenge about educating people about what they could do if they would have more time and the potential they could have. And you don't have to take massive action. It's not about, hey, you need like 5 or 6 hours in a day, or you need to find another job. It's just 5 or 10 minutes or 2 minutes extra that could make all the difference. So that's what I'm mostly excited about, man, is like educating and telling people about the potential that they have within themselves. It's not about selling a product and looking externally for motivation, but saying, look, you have the resources already there. You don't need to buy products. You don't need an e-course or an ebook and stuff. Those things can definitely help, but all that is within you. So that's a big challenge, but it's also what I'm most excited about, man.
That's amazing. Good for you. I love all of that. Yeah. I think we've all felt that sort of like we get to the end of the day and maybe we're working long hours and we want to do something when we get home. If we just didn't feel like we needed a nap first, wouldn't that be awesome?
Right. It seems to be a big thing for so many people, especially now. I think when it comes to, for instance, the millennial group or, even beyond that, I think a lot of people are looking at opportunities outside of their 9 to 5, because those opportunities now exist through the internet. Like you have this podcast, which is able to reach so many people. People are saying, hey, I don't have to be, my identity doesn't just have to be what I do in my day job. There's so many opportunities. I can start a blog, podcasting. And so the question just is like, I just don't have the time. And that was really what set my mission, and what became my kind of, guiding principle to find out how to do that and how to get into biohacking and all that stuff. And it was just for one simple reason. It was just get more time in the day. Because I believe deep down that if we're able to just, like our motto of our company is get shit done. If you get a little more shit done in a day, it could actually make massive impact over time. So yes, I agree. And I think a lot of people feel that way, man.
I think so. And before we move on to the superhero story part, I think one part of that message gets lost a lot. If you have an opportunity, did you grow up with knowing who Mr. Rogers is on PBS? Do you know who Mr. Rogers is?
No, I actually do not. So okay. I do not. Yeah.
Do you know who he is now?
Yes, I know who he is now. I didn't grow up here in the States, so but I do know who he is now. Yes.
So for everybody out there listening, if you get a chance, there's this a documentary based on Mr. Rogers' life. That if you grew up with him like most Gen Xers did, it will probably make you cry. So watch it in a room alone. Anyway, I watched it on an airplane and I cried like a baby. Anyway,
right.
And it wasn't
still running. So.
It wasn't the sad kind of crying. It was the kind of like, sorry he's gone, because he was kind of like an angel almost. Anyway, but his message was really, really boiled down. It was like he wanted to tell kids that they don't have to do anything amazing to be worthy of love. Okay. Yes. And I think that gets so lost. It's like I know I went through that forever. It was like, I want to change the world, right? Everybody, right? Wants to change the world. And the thing is not everybody can change the world. And even the people that are changing the world, like Oprah and, whoever, name your superhero that you love that's changing the world, literally. It's not easy. Okay. So you don't necessarily have to change the world. You just have to, you don't have to do anything earth shattering. You just have to do you, really, I think you just have to be you. And just like my mission in life is to be Jeff Smith, the best I can Jeff Smith. Like Jeff Smith is a verb, right? I want to be the best Jeff Smith. So I don't need to change the world. I just need to change me. Right. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, it's great. And I hope that that's one of the things that, people get, take away from the show. And, I would say I would take it a little bit further is that you can change the world by being the best version of you. It's small actions over time that actually accrue and that make big impact. Right. And if we look at it from like personal finance and investing, if you look at the large wealth creators in this country, whether it's real estate or slowly investing and diversifying your portfolio. And it's not an overnight thing. It's not like you'll invest and tomorrow you get all the wealth, but it's over time that accrues and does build generational wealth. And I think that's definitely one thing I want to get into this episode as well, kind of my realization of that and how that played a role in kind of my me being on the show in the first place, being able to talk to you. And one thing that you said quickly, you said you want to just be the best Jeff Smith, and look at what you've created. You have this podcast, this medium that reaches so many people. So the best Jeff Smith is already making such a big impact, and I would say is already changing the world by having meaningful conversations that people that you don't even know that are listening to you and tuning into you. So hopefully that's one thing that people get away from the show.
I think you're right. I agree. So I don't want to say I disagree. I think it's a mindset difference. It's not really an effect difference. So I look at this like if I take the mindset of I want world peace, right? Like every beauty pageant contestant ever, I want world peace, right? We all just sort of chuckle just like you did, right? But if I say I'm making like a very important piece of my life, personal peace. That sounds to me and my brain, every part of that thing is possible. I know I can create peace in me, right? Now, how that translates is if everyone in the world focuses on personal peace, it's possible for everyone. And therefore we get the thing that we want. But if I come at it like saying, I want world peace, I don't believe that's possible. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? It's like a mindset thing.
Totally. And once you adopt that mindset, you will look for the solutions that you're trying to get.
That are possible, not the laughy kind, but the things that
exactly
possible. Right.
Exactly. But you'll look internally, and that's really about it.
That's where the answer is. Right.
And so that's what I was started off with. And what you kind of mentioned is you look at the solutions internally. They're within you, and like what contribution can you make?
Right.
Instead of looking and asking and feeling
how can I change the world? No.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right. 100%.
The internal, external kind of thing. So this is Vroom Vroom Veer. We can't avoid it. We have to make this into a mini therapy session with Prady and Jeff. Yes. Okay. Yes, don't expose anything you don't want to expose, but let's get into it. So where did you grow up? Because I don't know.
Yeah, so I was actually born in the Netherlands. So I a few kilometers outside of Amsterdam.
Nice.
That's where I was born. So and then I kind of moved around a little bit throughout Europe, and then I came to the States a little bit before college. So I came up from Europe. I wanted to come to the States. I wanted to there was a kind of growing up in Europe, especially with my grandparents and my dad being a big influence, that was like the place to be, and it still is. And just America playing a huge role in Western Europe and the post-war generation. So everyone wanted to come here. This was the place. And I always wanted to come here for the opportunity, especially because I was super passionate about business. And I knew that if I wanted to take my entrepreneurial drive forward, it would have to be in the States. That's what I really just felt and believed. And so I moved here to college, my late teens. And that's a little bit about my background from where I'm from.
Wow. Okay. So a little bit outside. I actually visited Amsterdam more than once.
Fantastic. That's good.
It's awesome. I love that whole area. Let's see. What do I usually say? I was really excited to see the red light district and all the drugs and stuff, just because at that time, that was what I was interested in.
Yes.
And my comment now would be, even then it was just sad. So in my mind, the fantasy world was, it was going to be this big party, right?
Right.
Yay. It's the red light district. It's a party. It's not.
Right.
It's just sad. But the nice thing about it was, wow, just what an amazing city. And it seemed like the police were bored because they didn't have anybody to bust for drugs. Right?
True.
Yeah.
True.
All right. So when I went, and I want to say it was probably, when was I there? Like the early 2000s, I guess.
Yep.
Somewhere between 2000 and 2003 was when I was actually in the Air Force in England, and I want to say we took a bus. No, I probably flew. It could have been one or the other. There was buses, there was planes, who knows. But those little like skinny little, what do they call them? Like streetcars, right?
Yeah. Little streetcars and
skinny
bikes.
Little streetcars. Yes, lots of bikes and cars with boots because they were parked illegally. So the police were putting boots everywhere. Right.
Yeah, it's great. Amsterdam is a great town, and Netherlands is fantastic. It's funny because like now that I'm in the States, a lot of people want to go to Amsterdam, and being from there, you don't, as being a local, you don't, head to necessarily to the red light district or
that's
like,
a tourist thing.
It's more of a tourist thing. So I always find it great how people are so fascinated with it because being there,
it's just a thing.
Yeah, like because once it's legal, like there it's legal. So like I know here is our big debate about marijuana and. At what age should people, consume alcohol and that stuff? And like we've had those debates for a long time ago, so it's really kind of a non-topic.
Right.
But it's great to see those cultural differences, but also being a local and now going back, to visit my family there. But yeah, one thing I liked about the Netherlands is it is one of the few European countries where people speak really, speak English really well. As of course there's an accent, but you grow up listening and watching American movies and entertainment without it being dubbed. So in other European countries, like in Germany or in France, the movies a lot of times are dubbed. So if you want to watch them in English, you have to go to special showtimes.
Oh, right. Wow.
Whereas in the Netherlands, you just have the Dutch subtitles below. So you're kind of forced in many ways to learn English. And I think it really helps. It really helped me because although my English wasn't really great, it was not super good, but it was good enough where I could get by. And that definitely helped me tremendously when I came here. Of course, I picked up a better accent through the years, but for sure, I think that was a huge value. And I know a lot of people that go there as tourists never have any problem really finding people that can help them out, when they're speaking English.
All of Europe is amazing, but I really did enjoy my time in the Netherlands. It was awesome. France was great. Germany was great. Austria is great. I mean, my thing is growing up in the States, I always wanted to go to Europe. It's just like, oh man, it would be so awesome to live in Europe. So when I did, it was fun. Yeah. Actually, I would like to go back and live again somewhere. The Netherlands would probably be a good choice. Just because you're right. I mean, it's really easy if you don't want to speak another language. So
yes. Yeah.
So anyway, okay. So where did you end up in the States going to college? Boston?
Yep. I came to Boston and I went to Boston University, pretty big school here in Boston, big research university. And I came here I knew I wanted to do something in business and entrepreneurially, but I didn't know like what I would want to major at. So I did switch it up quite a bit. And I know it's a lot of concern for a lot of younger people that go into school or parents like, hey, my kid needs to know their major right from the bat. And there are benefits of when you know what you want to do and you're dead set on it, starting early, I think has a tremendous amount of benefits because then you do have a little bit of a leg up. But if you're someone that isn't really sure what path to take, and I credit the American school system for that because, in Europe, we take our path about which profession we want to go into, like early in high school, like as 14, 15-year-old, you get.
Wow.
Yep. So you take a test and then based on your grade and then you go into different schools. Like there in Europe, we have a big push for vocational schools and technical schools. So the government doesn't want everyone to go to, college because we had a lot of manufacturing jobs after World War II that need to be filled. So they have a school system that's based on really strongly not having people change their major or go to college. So when you go to college, you're either going to do a professional kind of job and you can't just go to college and then end up doing something tech. Like they don't want that. So they actually force kids at a really young age to kind of decide their path. And if you end up choosing the wrong path in high school, you have to do like extra few years of high school, which is why we see a lot of European, students, they're much older and they graduate much later because sometimes they choose their path. But the States is awesome for that. So because, you can choose your major down the line. And I didn't know in the beginning really what I wanted to do. I knew I was into health and fitness and I knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurially, but I actually didn't decide on what I really wanted to do until my late sophomore or my junior year. But one of the things I was able to do, again, taking advantage of the American school system, was just meet tremendous amount of amazing people being at a school like BU. Like that was just mind blowing because I came from a pretty small town and we had my high school, my entire grade was like 25 people. So very small.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So tiny.
Yeah.
Because I went to high school in Switzerland. And it was really, and to middle school, most of high school went to Switzerland, and yeah, it was tiny. And so coming here and being in a school with 20, 30,000 people was just
that's a really big class. It's one of those auditorium classes.
Oh yeah, those were all my classes freshman year, and I had never seen anything like that before, except for if I had gone to a soccer game. So this was really mind blowing, but really it's easy to get lost in those places, but it's also easier to find other like-minded people who have some sort of similar drive and really create something that can push and propel you. And that's another thing I want to get at is your network and building up a great network, which is what I think the value lies in the American educational system, which we don't always have in other places in the world. But yeah, so that's where I went to school, man, at Boston University.
I can echo a little bit. I think the most value I got, I finished a bachelor's degree after I retired from the Air Force. Mm-hmm. So I was like about 38, but I went to one of these programs that most of the people that were doing it were older, not as old as me, but older. And all the college that I went to kind of takes a lot of crap. It's one of the for-profit schools, the University of Phoenix. But they've got a rule. They've got two rules. All of the college instructors have to be full-time employed in whatever it is they're teaching, not a full-time teacher. Yep. And they also have to have a master's degree in whatever it is that they're teaching.
Fantastic.
Right. That's what I said. So the value that I got wasn't necessarily, the academic-y kind of lecture-y stuff. That was more or less just like you're doing it on your own. You're doing papers and presentations, and that was good. There's value in that. But what I really took value out of was listening to this person who currently has a job in something I might be interested in. Okay. So, and in psychology, there was like a guy that worked with the school system and a guy that worked in the county health, and this guy had this job and this person was statistics, but she's got a job. So it was just this wide breadth of people that I got to chat with having the job that I might want to get.
Yes.
And I learned I didn't want that job.
Oh yeah.
Any of them. I was like, oh, okay, psychology's not really for me. That's okay. Right. I still graduated. I learned a lot of stuff, but yeah. So I definitely get the network effect is huge. I think it's more important maybe than what you learn out of the book, because nowadays you can learn that on the internet for free anyway.
Yeah. It's, because I'm kind of in the entrepreneurial space, and I always tell people, like, so many people are now excited, especially millennials, about being an entrepreneur. And I tell them, and I look at it and I was like, back in, when I was growing up, it was like pilot, and it was doctors, then it was lawyers, and like every age like group has kind of their thing that you should do.
Astronaut thing.
Yeah. Astronaut. Right. So, and right now it just happens to be entrepreneurial, and being an entrepreneur, like that's just the thing that everyone wants to do. I can't, tell you how many messages I get on my private message on Instagram about, people that are young and want to become an entrepreneur. And, and I think I know, just speaking from historical factors, that this is a fad. And if we do end up having another crash, in the markets, it's gonna change again, because that's what happened in 2008. People realized, like the regular jobs aren't as stable, so we need to find something else. And then that's when the whole startup kind of phase really started strongly. But I think like one of the big questions that you always get is, well, I can learn this through course, I can learn this through ebooks, and I can learn this through podcasts. And I am a big believer in picking knowledge from those places. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I do read a lot of books, but at the end of the day, and people ask like, what's the best way to find out if I have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? I always tell them, go and shadow with one for about 100 days. Like, look at what they do and look at what their job responsibilities are. Cause that's not something that you can get out of a course online or out of a YouTube course, no matter how good the information is. So that's like always one of my biggest things is shadowing people on a day-to-day basis and seeing what they're doing and looking at the responsibilities as opposed to the rewards, right? Because the rewards, you get to enjoy that for, a fraction of the amount of time, but what you're most of the time on is the responsibilities that the job requires. And you don't really get the full picture of that until you really go and, do it. And you spend time with someone that's doing it and you're like, man, like, do I really want this type of life? Like, this is really for me. So I'm a big proponent of what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you might learn that you don't want to do that.
Which is great too.
It's
like, right.
Hugely valuable because then you can go find out the thing that you actually want to do.
Yes. So true. Yeah.
I think I didn't shadow anybody, but I kind of did. I kind of shadowed from a distance. So my first attempt at doing anything I never called it entrepreneurial. I didn't use that label, but I thought, is there something I can do that's just thing I do, and then make money? Right. Yep. And I think a lot of millennials are looking for something like that too. So the first thing I thought was, well, bloggers make money. Let me see if I like doing blogging. And the answer to that question was no. So my answer was like, if I were to make money doing anything like that, it would be this podcast thing. Because, I can have a chat with somebody I've never met before. like 3 times a day, probably 3 times or 4 times a week. And that would just be like, I would be in, hog heaven. That's just fun. I do it for free. I kind of do it for free now. I do it for free now. Actually, I pay the universe. I pay to do this. So not only am I doing it for free, it costs me like $1,000 a year, which, that's not a lot of money, but I enjoy doing it. That I not only would I do it for free, I would pay money to do it. So I think that's a key feature, is like whatever the medium is, it should be something that you just intrinsically enjoy, that you're not seeking a reward to do it, right? You're just enjoying it.
Yeah, that's so huge. And I think that there's a lot of people that know that they kind of want to do some personal branding or getting themselves out there, but they just don't know what medium. And I think what happens a lot of times, especially now, because the mediums are changing so rapidly, right? So we went from Facebook, and then there's Instagram, there's Snapchat, and now there's so many other platforms, TikTok, and I'm not sure. And so the people, what they're doing is they're jumping from one to the other, and they think more about what the medium is that they should use rather at what the content is, because the medium will keep changing, but we'll go out of style, but we'll never go out of style as good content. And so if you build great content, and if that medium is the medium where your content will thrive, then it doesn't matter how old it is. Like, I know still so many businesses that absolutely kill it with direct mail marketing. There's still people that do that. There's still people that do email marketing. There's still people that do Facebook. And I think so, and that's, sometimes a concern people listening in the show is like, I want to have a podcast, or I want to do, X, Y, or Z. What medium should I use? Should I get on Twitter? I was like, man, like, find out what content can you deliver, and where is that content best suited to? And I can just speak to you for a few minutes, and it's I can tell that you're someone that's really good at speaking and at asking good questions, having a conversation. So podcasting is the right medium, clearly. And there are people that podcast and they're not great podcasts, or they blog and they're not great bloggers, and they're like, man, I get this question once every week. Dude, I put out a lot of content, but I don't get any views. I don't get any hits. And I'm like, I look at their content. I was like, dude, I don't think your content, you're not a failure, or your stuff isn't bad. It's just the way, the medium that you use for your message might not be a good
match. Right.
Yeah. So try to find something else. So that's, I'm glad that you mentioned that, man.
No, it's true. I mean, I think, once you match the you-ness, you find out what you like, and then find the medium that feeds that little itch, that scratches that. I almost like to think of it as, I know people kind of scoff at this, but I like to think of this podcast as art, right? There's a difference between making something artistic, because it's coming from a different sort of place in my mind, and that it's not necessarily productized. You know what I'm saying? Yes. It's not intended to make money. It's just intended to be awesome.
Yep.
Right?
I love that.
Yes. Yep. It's just, I want to make an awesome podcast that's so good that people can't ignore it. That if that's the goal, and you just forget it, maybe money will come, maybe it doesn't, but just focus on the awesome thing. Whatever you can make the most awesome, start doing that and putting it out there. And if you enjoy doing that, people will eventually come, I think.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of great things there, man. And that comes to like a big thing, that I've done in my life, which is being entrepreneurial. And and I've never had to sit down and think, okay, what business do I want to create next? Like, they've all kind of I've just created them, or they've come to me, or something like that. And the reason why is because the best, and I talk about this sometimes on my Instagram, but like the best business ideas aren't like that you can find on a Reddit or on a group chat. The best ideas are the ones that are an extension of you. So they're who you are. And then the people are like, well, okay, I want to create content. I want to brand myself, but I don't know, like, what should I talk about? And I was like, well, it's an extension of who you are. And they're like, well, I don't know what an extension of myself is. I don't know what I should do.
Right. You have to go find out who you are.
First. Right. Yes. And I tell an easy way to do that, an easy hack. I was like, dude, what your brand and extension of yourself is what you do when no one's watching. What do you do
Right.
day-to-day basis when no one's watching? How do you lead your life? Do you make your bed in the morning? Do you respond to emails on time? Do you procrastinate? Do you like whatever? And there's no value judgment to that. There's nothing
Right.
wrong
There's
with
no
that.
right or wrong to these.
No, but that's your brand, right? So if I'm every day, I'm like, if I have an Instagram right now and I'm talking about motivation and like peak productivity, but in my day-to-day life, I'm not always the quickest to respond. I'm not always the quickest to, I procrastinate and I'm not always productive. So that shouldn't be my brand. And I can start a YouTube page and talk about, hey guys, I'm going on a challenge. I've struggled with, responding to emails on time. And so for 30 days, I'm going to, start a vlog and talk about that. I'm going to have a podcast to talk about how to become more productive. So then that is more likely to fit because that's who you are. And you're going to be able to talk about it very passionately because that's the stuff that you do when no one's watching, when there's no cameras, there's no mic. And that's, I think, your brand. And that's what people want to see. That's always been the quickest hack to answer that question. Cause I do answer that quite a bit.
I get it. And it makes sense. We've kind of like gone off on a tangent. Let's get back
right.
to the superhero origin story.
Yeah.
That's so okay. I love all of this. This is all great. It's awesome. So no judgment. It's awesome. But so let's talk a little bit more about. So you do college, and it sounds like you were probably like running businesses while you were in college. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah. That was a thing for me. So I went to college, and then my first year, I was really, I'm very observational. So I was always observing, different problems and things, conversations. I really like having conversations with people. And what I do is I don't really like to hear, I like to listen to what they say. And like one of the big problems because I was always into health and fitness, and people kept mentioning that they're looking to get supplements, so their protein and their pre-workout and general sports nutrition supplements, but they're like, man, it takes so long. Like I need it now. And they were always running out, and people would borrow each other's supplements because at the time, Amazon Prime wasn't really there.
Okay.
And even if it was there, it was 2-day delivery. And people didn't have cars on college campuses to drive to GNC or something. So people need their supplements. There was just no way to get it. And I was like, well, there has to be a better solution. So basically what I did is I called distributors, so large, distributors that have a lot of protein and a lot of branded stuff. And I asked them if they would sell me their inventory in stock in bulk. So went back and forth, and they said yes. And basically, me and my buddy, we in our dorm room, we basically stocked our entire dorm room with different types of products, so protein and pre-workout. We stepped on the floor, and the entire room was filled. And people thought we were crazy, but what we did is we set up a website. It wasn't a great website; it was quite ugly, actually.
Didn't matter.
But it didn't matter. But what we did is
take orders, basically.
Right? Yeah. So the thing we did is instead of a 2-day delivery that bodybuilder.com had, or Amazon was kind of starting to offer 3-4 days, we promised delivery in 20 minutes on campus. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and people like, is this real? And yeah, people make an order just on campus, and we would have a bike, and we would just give them, like, we would say, we'll meet you at the gym, dude. Like, just come to the gym, and we'll give you whatever you've ordered. And people didn't really believe it. And so we got our first few orders, and people were blown away. And what was cool about it, that people were paying a premium for delivery at early delivery, right? And Amazon has kind of figured it out that people pay a premium for that. That's how kind of Prime took over. So
sure.
We did that business, and that was that became a huge viral kind of business, and people were ordering quite a lot, and it became super profitable. And we started copying this at other schools, same model, store it in a place on a college campus centrally. And then we started hiring and bringing on other interns, like basically runners who would have a bike, and they would bring them would basically deliver it in 20 minutes to whoever's dorm, or mostly to the gym.
That's even faster than pizza. So that's
yeah, it was really quick. So we did the same thing, Domino's model, where we said if it's late, you get a discount off it. But yeah, so that was it wasn't the most groundbreaking app in the world. It wasn't the coolest thing, but it became very profitable. And also, I actually was able to sell my stake in that business, and it was my first kind of success. And so definitely after that, I've had some ups and downs and failures, but my first one definitely was quite a success. And that started off, another thing great about being in a community and selling in your community as opposed to going global or national or statewide, is that people talk about it and things pick up traction a little bit quicker, because word of mouth still maintains one of the best ways of marketing, right? So we think a lot, oh, everything is happening digitally. But actually, if you look at brand conversations, we still have about 90% of conversations around brands happen at the dinner table, happen
water cooler.
in bars. Yeah, stuff, just stuff that you talk about, right? So took advantage of that. So in college, that spread really quickly. And that was my first real kind of success. And kind of the rest was kind of came to me in one way or the other because people saw that what we had done with a business like that. And a lot of people, especially at, being in Boston, it's kind of like everyone kind of wants to do a startup here. Like it's the big thing. Like Facebook started from here, Zipcar started from here, Drizzly started from here. Like a lot of, obviously being a college heavy, place, it's very big on startups. I think after Silicon Valley, I think Boston is probably the place for most startups. And so a lot of people had ideas and would kind of bring it to me. And I became this kind of person because of one of these success stories to kind of vet and look at businesses. And that was really cool. It's kind of like you put out good stuff and it works and people see that. And they're like, okay, well, he's done it before. How can I associate myself with that? And that was a massive breakthrough for me.
I like that because you solved the problem for you, right?
Yes, exactly.
Saw a problem. You're like, damn it, I can't get my supplements on time. Damn it, I can't get my protein on time, right? I got to do a workout and I don't have my shit. Right. And then you go, how can I fix this, right? And then if you need that, then, there's going to be a lot of other people that have the same problem, right? So I think people get lost in that. It doesn't have, again, go back to the beginning of the conversation. It doesn't have to be, like solving world hunger. It just needs to be a problem that you have that you can fix.
Oh, that's huge. I know the conversations that we've had. I know people that I came to class with, as freshmen, and they're super talented, man. Like they knew business in and out, like very, very business savvy. And their focus for such a long time had been, I want to build the next Uber. I'm going to build the next next Twitter. And that's what everyone kind of is working on campuses. That's what the accelerator programs and all these kind of venture capitalists, they provide capital only for those type of businesses. Like if you try to apply, they're like, oh, sorry, we only take tech companies. And that's like their focus. I get that because the multiple, if they work, is great. But I've known people from 18, 19 years old, and they still haven't created one business. And so in the meanwhile, I've created dozens, right? And I'm saying that because I know that business wise and business as in like knowing all the numbers and being strategic, I don't have an accounting degree. I don't have a business degree. So I knew that if they would have done the same as I did, just focus on a small problem, like it could be starting a landscaping company, but doing something a little bit better, starting a food truck company, but just doing something a little bit better. It could be it could be something small. They would have absolutely knocked me out of the park, like no doubt, but they didn't. And so now a few of them actually, they apply to work for me. And that's always interesting because I know deep down that they're way more talented and smarter, but what they failed to do was they have inaction because they think that the only way to make progress and the only way to grow in life is to do massive things. And while that is fantastic, and I'm always for those type of businesses because they do end up changing the world in very meaningful ways, but success-wise, you can do a lot of small things and it does add up. And that's why I'm on your show today, right? I have a little bit of a resume built from starting and scaling businesses, and I have a story to tell, and they don't. And that's it's a shame because they are very talented, and I would go on record and say that they're way more talented. And if I hear them speak, I'm like, dude, you should have done so many more of these because you would have absolutely killed it. Yeah.
I've heard that story so many times that where the right person at the right time solving the right simple, small, tiny little problem for themselves turns into a big thing. I mean, it like I said, it's not going to be like, it may not be the $20 million exit, right? But it'll be a start. It'll be a start, and it also sort of like sets you up for success for your next business too.
Absolutely. So huge, right? Because other people who are looking, and if you want to get a real breakthrough success, and if you look at successful people like that have massive success, what has really happened? They have some raw talent, and other people have invested them into them in some way, right? Whether it's great athletes, they have great coaches or great teams or great franchises that support them, or great business people to have some sort of mentor. But for those people to take you in, what they're looking for is competency. And I'm a big proponent of that, right? So you have to show that you're competent. It matters more than anything in life. Like if you want to attract success, you need to be competent in what you do. And so my focus was like, whatever I do, I'm going to be competent at it. So I don't need a $25 million exit. It's okay having a $200,000 exit, but
right.
I was able to start a business, scale it, hire people, sell it, and execute perfectly. And that turned me into my brand right now, is that I'm very competent at what I do. So down the line, when I started in my business career, when we were doing bigger and bigger businesses, those people that have changed, my life, whether it's through contacts or whether it's through networking events, they were willing to take a bet on me because they've seen that I have a track record of competency versus someone who is just is not focused on competency, but is just looking to scale right away. So resume building and showing that you're competent will go a long way,
It's totally, because I think, especially me, when I was like, I think we get the people that are like constantly grasping and never finding. Okay. My experience was I was thinking it had to be the amazing idea. Right. And it doesn't. That the amazing idea is sort of like a myth almost.
Yes. Yep.
It really is, because ideas are useless, right? They're kind of useless because I've had this thing where it's like, I thought of that first, right? And the answer is, who cares? You didn't execute it.
Oh yeah.
You can sell execution. You can sell 100%. Execution. It's sellable. That's a thing. It meant that you made something and made money, right? So if you have I think a good piece of advice would be just go do something. And even if, you don't care about the idea, just do it really well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And see what happens.
Excellent execution over time.
Yes.
And it's not just like, people look at stuff linearly. Okay, I did X, did I get Y reward? And if I didn't get Y reward, the X was bad. And that's not how the world works. Like the world works is you do X consistently over time, and you might not get directly to Y, but some way or other, some other letters, C, F, G, H, I, will come into your life and will make your Z multiply by 10. But you have to keep on executing well. That's been something that I preach on. That's why, we were talking about like, what's your brand? But if you execute well, even when no one's watching, even when you're not monetizing your stuff, it can be something small. Like I have a podcast and I'm releasing it consistently that day that I've promised my listeners.
Exactly.
And that can be something small. And you're like, man, what's the payoff? I'm lazy today. I can just, upload it tomorrow or something like that. Right. So, but someone is going to notice that. They're going to, maybe down the line somewhere, someone's going to be like, I want to invest in a podcast. I'm a sponsor. And like this podcast, you're consistent. The other one might have 5,000 more listeners, but this podcast is consistent. And I'm going to invest in that and that. Or you might find a person that you're interviewing, and that person is like, man, I love this podcast because they're consistent. They know what they're doing. And it's such an awesome time to speak to you. And I want to put it all over my socials, and that might blow it up. So I hope that that's a big takeaway too, that success is rarely a causation effect where A equals B. It doesn't really happen. That's not what my life has been about. It's about I do A really well. No one's watching. No one cares. I get no traction. And all of a sudden, some traction comes from somewhere that I didn't really expect it. So
right? Yeah. I mean, it's just like this big aha, it's like,
yes.
Anyway, so let's talk about how you got into the current situation where you're at with this supplement. So it had to do with not having enough time. But yes. tell us the story. What were you doing, and how did you find this nootropic solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So right when I graduated college, I had at that time started my first business that I just talked about the end of my freshman year, early sophomore year. And then I had scaled it, sold it. And then a lot of business opportunities came my way, and a lot of them were good. And I wanted to get involved with them. I wanted to help scale them, grow them. And at the same time, I'd also taken an interest in bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding.
Okay.
And throughout my college career, I had been bodybuilding competitively as a teen, then as a junior, then local, then state. And I remember when I graduated from college, I got an opportunity to go to law school on a scholarship. I didn't really want to miss out on it, and I wanted to take it. But I remember my first day of like orientation, I spoke to the dean, and I went to BU Law, so that was a straight program right after. So I'd known their faculty, and she told me, she's like, Prady, one of the things that I'll tell you, I know you have a lot of businesses and stuff, and you have your bodybuilding, and you're doing competitively. You're gonna have to choose, because law school is brutal. Like it's like through a heavy ringer, and it's not going to be potentially the smartest thing to do all if you want to graduate on time and stuff. And I remember leaving that meeting feeling kind of disappointed because I didn't want to give up on everything. And I never wanted to do something okay. Like all my businesses need to get maximum attention. Right. I wanted to turn, at that point, I was already at nationals at bodybuilding. So I wanted to compete and turn professional as a natural bodybuilder. And I wanted to, get through law school. I knew it was going to be a massive task. And I remember, I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. And I remember the first semester, I was getting slaughtered, man. Like it was absolutely brutal. Like I always took a lot of pride in my academics in college. But once I got into law school, it was like the next level. I remember
right.
my first day in class, the class was over, professor leaves, and none of the students leave. They all stay there, and they were just like talking, discussing cases. And I was like, is the class done or not? And I was one of the youngest ones there, because most people have like some work experience and they come back to law school. So I didn't understand what was going on. But like the kids there, or the students there, a lot of them over 30, and they were really into their academics. And so it was really serious for them. So that's all that they wanted to do. And I was like, man, this is going to be brutal. So my first semester in law school, I was really struggling. And, right. And I had another conversation with my dean, and she said, Prady, you got to give up something. And whatever you have, in your life, like you have like your business and stuff, and that's great, but it's not going to be enough. And actually she took me outside her office, and she said, you see that kid over there? That's going to be the next Rhodes Scholar. You see that person over there? Like she's potentially going to, clerk in the Supreme Court. That person, she competed, in the Olympics. So she was giving me all examples. And she's like, Prady, in law school, you don't mean shit. Like everyone is great here. Like it's a difficult program to get in, and you're not the only one that's doing great things.
Right.
So
right.
They have sacrifice. So should you. What makes you so special? And that really hit home with me. Like I was like, I can't take that anymore. So I started getting really into biohacking. And for people who don't know what that is, it's really about trying to find ways to get more time in your day. So I would do anything from sleeping on a different, cycle, like figuring out if I could get less sleep and do more.
Polyphasic sleep.
Yes. I would do everything. It's changing on my diet, changing on how I ate carbohydrates, all that stuff. But I would still take a lot of stimulants. And I remember on one day, it was an important day. It was actually an important presentation I had at school. And I totally crashed. Like I just crashed. Like I couldn't physically, it just crashed. And I went to the doctor, and he told me, Prady, like you got adrenal fatigue. Like you've taken too many stints. Like, you need to figure out like what you're doing. And I was like, cause I was literally like, my day was go to school, try to crush it as much as I can, like do hundreds and hundreds of pages of reading, doing all the assignments. I was running, I think just right under 10 businesses. And I was also training for 2.5 hours every day. So there was no time in my day, getting no sleep, and just taking all the types of stimulants. So I started researching.
You're strung out on coffee.
Coffee and B vitamins, anything like study drugs. I mean, anything I could get my hands on. But I knew that this was not going to be sustainable. And after I crashed, I was like, I need a lifestyle change. So I was looking online, and I stumbled upon a group of ingredients which were called nootropics. I kind of heard about them kind of on the internet a little bit. But basically, when I was researching, I found that these were a class of ingredients which actually the Russians used like back in the day. They would give it to their astronauts and their physicists and their doctors to really try to get an edge to mental peak performance. But what was cool about them is that they did not work in the way that stimulants work. So they basically, with stimulants, they jack up your chemicals in your brain.
Right.
And when you jack up a chemical in your brain, you will crash because it has to bring it back to homeostasis. Whereas nootropics, they don't function like that. They just bring everything back to balance. So if you're kind of jacked up, it will just bring it back to balance. And that's why it feels people become so more productive, because it's kind of like the feeling you get from like a good night's, like if you slept 7 or 8 or however long it takes you for like a good night's rest, and you wake up and you're like ready to tackle the day. Like that's the feeling, you get from them. Yeah. So I was like, I'm interested. Like I need to try these. So order them. And I would use them on myself. And I had this, so the way nootropics work, they're kind of different powders you got to use from different places, and you got to order it all together. It was kind of a mess, but I did it anyways. And I had a buddy who worked at the chem lab, and we would basically, put them together, and I would use them myself. And I remember first few times I couldn't find the right formula for me. And I think it took like, I would say just around a little bit over 100 tries to get the right concoction of different formulas and ingredients.
Right.
And I remember my buddy and I, we took it, and on on our way, we went to the gym, and my friend, he's a big dude, and he started like tearing up, and I was like, dude, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And I was worried. I was like, oh shit, I don't know what what we took that caused it. He was just literally like crying, like he was emotional.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, dude, what's going on? He's like, dude, I've never felt so good. Like, I feel so good right now, and I can't really explain how I feel. And I remember going through the workout in my day, and I was like, dude, yes, this is some good shit.
This
like,
is the mix here.
Yeah, this is the mix. So put it together, and I started using it like pretty heavily, consistently. And I remember the word of this started spreading that I had some concoction that I was using to run
the amazing shit.
Yeah,
the limitless pill.
Yeah. So I wouldn't take it that far, because that's obviously next level.
That's magic.
Yeah,
right?
But most of it too is like a story that builds her. Because I was doing like interviews and stuff on campus and helping out with alumni, because I'd started some business before. So BU was always trying to push me in their marketing, so people knew that I was doing something that helped me get an edge. So that story spread, and then people would really hit me up on Facebook in my class, like, okay, can I get some of this? And I was like, sure. And I would just kind of give it to them. But then I realized, like, okay, well, this is not, I don't want to just keep giving this stuff. I don't know if this is safe, like what's going on. So long story short, I contacted a manufacturer, a really good one with a good reputation. And I'd built up those relationships from my days in my first business selling supplements. Yeah. And I asked them whether they would be willing to formulate nootropic with me in a safe, clinically dosed manner. It took a lot of work and back and forth. And yeah, without... just fast forward a lot of tries and trial and error, we were able to build compliant, safe, and a real sports nutrition product called AZOTH, which is the nootropic that we are selling today. And really, it's 100% caffeine free, which I needed at that time. And it just doesn't make you crash. So you take it and you don't really feel that something is in your system. But it goes back to what you really said the first time around when I created my first business. I created this totally for myself. Like, I still today I have 5 or 6 of them that I bottles that I constantly go through. And I totally created this for myself and for a couple other friends. They really liked it. And yeah, the word of this spread. And yeah, right now we're selling all across the world, man. We recently started selling in South Africa. So it's going really well. It's a business that I built, from my time in law school. And I practiced as an attorney a little bit, but the business scaled so much that I left my law firm job, and I'm totally now focused on this business. And we're growing an employee base. We have manufacturing, we have a full office and a staff, and this has become a legit business. So this is something that I'm passionate about every single day. But it's not a hard sell. Never try to get people to use it. Like, if they want to, they can try it. But I always try to tell people, like, I've made this kind of for myself, and I know the problems that I was having. So if that's something that you'll give it a shot. And I'm always happy to recommend like other things that people could try and other supplements. It's not really that, you need to use AZOTH or it's the best thing in the world. It might work for you. And if it does, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, that's normal too. Sometimes it doesn't always work for people.
It's not for everybody. Right. And I think I'm interested in trying it mostly because it doesn't have a name as to what it's supposed to do, which I kind of like, because most of the nootropics you go out there it says energy or perfect vision, right? It's got this sort of like magic label, right? That kind of like, I don't know, it sort of like rings my kind of like BS button a little bit, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's like, so I had another guy on the podcast and he's got a website for, I think it's nootropicsexpert.com. So, and he was, he had a very specific and personal story that got him to where he was with his nootropics too. So he was solving his own problem, and then he came up with his own stack. But he suggested, like a really good multi and then energy, right? Because I was basically just trying to solve the I'm really sleepy at 2 p.m., and what I'm doing now is caffeine, right? What do you do for that? And he said, try this and that. And I would say I felt it. I felt different. I felt more awake. It was kind of like better than a cup of coffee or a bunch of green tea, but not earth-shatteringly so. It was sort of just like it was like, that's a lot of money to pay for a cup of coffee.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's always about managing expectations too, like what you're getting at. People, that's the biggest hurdle we have is like people are like, okay, is this going to be like coffee? I was like, no, this is not going to be like coffee. Like if you want coffee, you should definitely take coffee. And I've just said like the way I've always said, like, if you want to get like tons of work, if you want to be productive and get in the flow, like coffee will work for like 30, 40 minutes. Like if you're running late, like we've always said, like we'll use coffee if you just want to get a quick pick me up. But if you really want to, I always said, if I'm running late, I'll use coffee. But when I want to run everything, I use AZOTH. And that's how I see it. It's totally different. Like I use it for
it's a different niche in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different niche in my life. And that's really important too. Like setting expectations and not coming on podcasts and shows and hyping your business.
Like the only thing. It's the limitless pill now.
100%. No. I don't believe in that. So.
I wanted to ask you. So I know it says take it with a light fatty meal, which I dig that. I like that. I'm all into the healthy fat thing. But like, let's say you're at work and it's 2:00 and you've already had lunch, but you want to take the pill now. Is it something you'd say, should I take it with lunch or should I just like have a handful of almonds or something? What would...
Yeah, you can definitely take it with a handful of almonds. And the reason why some supplements and some companies shy away from it because they think people are actually not going to buy it because like, oh man, I got to travel with like almonds and healthy fats. But one thing that's really important is with a lot of supplements, just generally, a lot of them happen to be fat soluble, which basically means that they just work better when you consume them with healthy fats. And you never want, I think absorption is key with any supplement you're using. So if otherwise you're just throwing it down the toilet, which, literally, which you don't want to do. So that's why I've always said, use it with healthy fats because some of the ingredients and we've noticed with a lot of supplements, they just work so much better when they
bind with the fats, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely educating. That's another thing, it's really difficult sometimes is educating people about supplements because, people have stigmas around it. And I don't blame customers for that. I mean, the supplement industry, yes, it's deregulated and there's good things and bad things, but there's also a lot of like, I go a lot of websites, I get targeted and there's so much like spam and like bullshit. And that's
garbage.
That's what's really,
there's so much garbage.
There's a lot of garbage. Yeah. It's really, really important.
You have to acknowledge it because you're in the space. And then you have to do things to, set yourself apart, obviously. So, and I think you're doing a good job with that. You're paying for your own testing. So, you could say like that's good and bad at the same time, but you're going to take shit regardless of what you do. But, you can then provide that information. You can say, there you go. If you know what you're talking about, there's the study, there's the result, there's the clinical, results. And, if you know what you're talking about, then that's evidence. If you're just you're just going to like poop on me on the internet, you can do that without evidence.
It's so key. And I think it really comes down to one thing, man. The most important thing in the world one of the most important things is trust. Like it all comes down to that.
Right.
Do people trust you?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing, like when I'm investing in other companies, I'm like, who's the owner and is his voice part of the company? And if so, is he someone, not is he a trustable person? Because a lot of people, like you trust them, they're good people, but is his trust something that other people would see in him? And the way
does it come out in his
does it come out right? And that's key. So and there's so many ways you can do that. And one of the ways we've done it is through our post-purchase. I think a lot of companies, they like when you're coming into the store, they'll be like excited. They'll hit you up with like, hey, you want this, you want that, you want water, can we help you with? And they're all excited, but the minute you purchase, you never hear from them again, besides when they have like coupons or discount codes or something.
Right.
Like, well, where was all your hospitality now that I've bought? Like, what the hell?
Exactly.
So yeah, we focused on zero marketing budget. We got to 500 customers all through word of mouth. And I was like, that's it. We're not going to focus on attracting new customers. And all that we did and we do today is we focus on the people that have purchased and we nurture them and we help them out. So right now we put a Facebook group together where all our customers are in there and we just provide like mentorship and guidance and we connect people. I've helped people with like, and there's no charge for this. Like I've helped people with like job resumes. I've helped people connect with each other. I've attended like a couple of customers. Like I attended their weddings. Like there's, and they're just, and it becomes like a really,
you're living your tribe. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we call it. We call it the AZOTH tribe.
That's perfect.
That's what we call it. Yeah. And that's really what it is. So that's what has actually, and a lot of big business would say, dude, that's blasphemy. Like you should only focus on new customers, but I would beg to differ. The goal.
I agree with you. It's the relationship.
It's all the relationship. And the goal hasn't been to create the next $1 billion supplement company. The goal right now is to create a business that's sustainable and that people will talk about in a positive manner, because the hardest part is not getting to scaling, it's about, can you scale and survive? And with supplement companies, we've noticed that they don't tend to survive because there is no brand loyalty. You know, people use vitamin A for this, pre-workout B for this. There's no brand loyalty. So that's been our focus, man. That's how we've grown, just focusing on the first few customers and just nurturing them and providing so much extra value that they're like, God, dude, like this, there's no charge to be in the tribe. There's no charge for like extra charge for membership. It's just the bottle price. And then you get all that stuff, other stuff for free. So that's really
Amazing.
how we've grown.
You know, I think to me, that's the key. You know, I read this book about the guy that started now I can't remember it. It had the word Smith in it, but he wrote this book. I think it was sort of like a lawn care business or something like that. It's kind of like Home Depot before it was Home Depot. But, you know, he wrote a book about really what you're talking about, you know, about like the way to make a successful business is to love your customers, you know, and show them, you know, so he would say like, I want my customer service people to have the authority to refund up to $100 just because we don't lose a customer.
I 100% agree. And it's part of the bigger topic too today. Like, think about like we're living in such a digital world where everything's automated and you talk to bots and you talk to operators. And I think a lot of people, what we're seeing, one of the trends is that people are saying, no, like I want the human element back. Like I don't want automation. And I think a lot of tech companies, they're losing sight of that a lot of times. And I'll give an example. So, you know, if you think about Silicon Valley and the discussions that are happening there, like this next app, like I talk to kids all the time. I built an app that's going to track your heart monitor and like also tell you which music that you like and open your windows and all that stuff. And I was like, dude, that's cool. But you know what the most downloaded app on the entire app store is? Like, oh, what is it? What kind of technology is it? I was like, dude, it's a flashlight. Like that's a simple little invention, and that's still what people use. And I think we're going to see a craving to go back into some of the old means of communication. And I think a lot of the tech companies, they should take heed of that, because it's very easy to get in your own head and create your own bubble and think more tech. But I actually think that people are going to reject
more simple.
They're going to reject it and say, hey, we're just humans. Like we just want to.
And we're all starving for that human to human contact. So that,
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prady, this has been a blast. So you are at Get AZOTH. Am I saying that right? AZOTH?
Yep. GetAZOTH.com. And people definitely feel free to reach out to me. Like if you look me up, Prady Tewarie, PradyTewarie, just hit me up on Instagram. Or if not, you can look me up on Facebook or send me, if you go on GetAZOTH.com, if you actually talk to the, there's a chat in there, and I actually respond to the chat. It's me. So I spend 8 hours on my phone doing that. So I write custom. So I know most of our customers. So yes, it does take me pretty much my entire day spent on it, just because we do get quite a few requests. But if you ever have any questions, feel free. If I don't respond right away, I'll respond in in an hour or two. So feel free if you have any questions about anything in life. It doesn't have to be about the product. Please ask, and I'm more than happy to connect and help out.
This has been a blast, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity, man. I super appreciate your time, and it's man. I thank you so much for giving me the platform.
All right, you have a good one. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.